Hello, welcome to Maltbox, the non-chill filtered whiskey blog. I'm Andy and this is whiskey review number 46, and what I have for you today and what I have for you over the next 6 reviews is something very incredibly, intensely, insanely special, and that is the Gordon Macphail Speyside collection, which has been recently released and consists of 6 very special, as I say, very old, very unique Speyside single malt Scotch whiskies. So we're going to be taking you through one per review, and we're going to go chronologically from most latest, or most recent, to the oldest. Some of these are insane ages, honestly. So firstly, before I go any further, I just want to say thank you very much to the guys at Gordon Macphail for providing me with these samples to review. And following that up, as I've disclosed on all my other reviews where I've been provided official samples, being provided with these samples does not mean that I'm going to give a more positive review because I've been given them to try. If it's crap, it's crap, and I will tell you. If it's not, and it's good, then brilliant, all the best. So, what we have, I'll just run through what we've got. So the one I'm going to be looking at today, which I put in this lovely frame, is the 1972 Linkwood. We've then got a 1967 Longmorn, a 1954 Mortlach, a 1953 Strathisla, a 1949 Glengrant, and a 1948 Smith's Glenlivet. Insane. I have never tried whiskies this old before, and I'll be sharing them with you because these are going to be the first time that I've actually tried them as I go on to review these. So what I will be getting, what I am trying and experiencing, I'll be sharing with you for the first time. So again, just to re-emphasise, the fact that I've been sent these does not indicate these are going to receive a positive review. Now, the Speyside collection by Gordon Macphail was recently released, consisting of these whiskies, to sort of like show what they've got in terms of like all the stock, and basically get together what they see as like the best of their Speyside whiskies, and sort of put them into a little collection. Firstly, the only downside to that is that it costs £10.5 grand, so that's £10,500 sterling to get the full-sized versions of these 6 whiskies, which isn't exactly pocket change. So I mean, that's a deposit on a house, that's a car, that is a lot of money for whiskey. So, as I said, first one I'm going to be looking at today is this 1972 Linkwood. Alright, so Linkwood Distillery is located in Elgin, as are Gordon and Macphail. Make of that what you will. This particular 1972 bottling, I've got the info on this fact sheet here that they kindly sent along. So distilled 17th of November 1972, bottled on the 3rd of July 2013, 40 years of age. That's older than me. 277 bottles worldwide, so there's really not many bottles. That's you sort of see that in with your smaller single cask releases, really. I mean, this is a single cask to be fair, but so this is cask 14796, which is a first fill sherry hogshead. So this has been exclusively matured in a first fill sherry hogshead. Wow. So they've got a little bit of blurb here at the bottom about what happened, sort of like key moments in history in 1972. So just to sort of like put you back there. British coal miners begin a national strike, the first for half a century. Evel Knievel breaks 93 bones after successfully clearing 35 cars. That's a lot. Atari kicks off the first generation of video games with the release of Pong. 1972. Bloody hell. Flares. The discotheque. I wasn't around, so, you know. I'm sure it was very nice. So, First fill sherry hogshead, 1972 Linkwood. Quite a nice honest copper colour to it. It's not too dark, it's not, you know, I don't think it's going to be PX sherry, should we say, that was kept in this potentially. But very nice sort of coppery ambery colour, like the Jurassic Park amber that I've mentioned in the past. So let's leave that where it is. So onto the nose now. I've given it a little bit of time to open up, which is why I've been yabbering so much. So I think it probably would take a little bit of time. Oh, Chinese 5-spice straight off the bat, really oriental spices. Cinnamon, cardamom, chili oil, oddly, chili oil. There is that sort of oriental sweetness in there as well. And now it's kind of almost going into like a spiced mulled wine like you get at Christmas, like Glühwein, German Glühwein. So like a cut grass, a little bit of coffee. Really very spicy. Very intense in the middle. So when you initially put your nose in, it's a little bit playful, and then all of a sudden you're hit with this sort of like pocket of spice. Very intriguing. There's also, I think, sort of towards the back end of that pocket, like an exotic fruit note, so like pineapple, mango-y kind of thing. It's surprisingly fresh towards the end for such an old whiskey. It's been laid in the cask for 40 years. Now Linkwood, as I say, is a distillery in Elgin in Speyside. It's owned by Diageo, and it has an annual production capacity of around 5.6 million litres a year of alcohol. So it's not small, but you won't really see any official releases. Gordon Macphail do bottle quite a few of them under their sort of like distillery label range and that. And basically the last official bottling that I can remember is Diageo's Flora and Fauna range, where they released 12-year-old Linkwood. It's a very popular spirit with blenders. It's a very high category malt for blending. So, you know, it will appear, and it does appear, in a lot of Diageo's blends. It played quite a key part in Johnny Walker Green. It's one of the key components in there. Now just going back there, yes, you've still got that oriental spice, yes, you've got your cinnamon, your cardamom, your nutmeg even, but there's also sort of a leathery note in there now. A very sort of warm, old leather, like a really old leather jacket that's been in your wardrobe for years. And tobacco. So Golden Virginia, Drum, whichever's your brand, you know, that side, you will sort of like recognise that, you know, when you open your packet of tobacco. I am an ex-smoker, and I used to smoke roll-ups, so I used to buy Golden Virginia, and just as I opened the bag, you used to get this little waft of sort of really nice, it's actually quite nostalgic in a way, sort of like warming tobacco notes in there. And I am surprised by that fruitiness towards the end, but it complements this sort of like oriental spice quite well. And as I say, there is a bit of a sort of like a coffee note in there. Arguably you could say chocolate as well, but each their own. It really is one that you could sit there for hours just picking apart. Unfortunately, I've only got about 20 minutes max before either A, my camera stops recording, or B, you all fall asleep. You might have done already. I'll try and talk a bit quieter then. Wouldn't want to disturb you. Sort of like ginger note in there as well, like candied ginger. I can't wait to try the palate of this, honestly. It's very, very, what you might call a challenging dram. It's trying to pick apart those layers. It's very complex. It has clearly got a lot to offer. Right, here goes nothing. Nice legs. Onto the nose. Onto the nose? I hope not. Onto the palate. A little bit more subdued than the nose in terms of complexity. Still very powerful for the strength. 43%. I don't know if I mentioned that. If I didn't, I apologise. Chocolatey note in there. Milky Way chocolate bars. There is sort of like a pepperiness in there, like black pepper. You've got that tobacco flavour in there again. Yes, there's some spice. Yes, there is sweetness in there as well. Candied like peels. You've got Werther's Original toffee. Finish, going into the finish, it's actually quite short. Still a bit warm, but it's quite short. Just going to go back a look. I'll have a little bit more before I put, because I am going to try it with water. I think you do have to kind of say on this one, the nose for me so far trumps the palate. Now on the palate now, I am getting like a honey flavour. I'm also getting that kind of sweetness akin to like candy floss, cotton candy. I don't know if you've tried it in the UK. You can find it in some shops, but in the US you might be more familiar with it. Marshmallow fluff. Can't believe I'm saying this about a 40-year-old whiskey. I'm so sorry, go on, Macphail. Yeah, marshmallow fluff, I'll be honest. Sort of like cinnamon buns that you get at breakfast. It's almost acidic in a way, going towards the finish. Sort of a little bit of sort of tannin, sort of play around there maybe. Now, I was just looking at this actually to see what the cost of this one is, and to be honest with you, I can't remember off the top of my head, which doesn't help. So I do apologise, but I will follow it up with a YouTube comment underneath the video once I've uploaded this. From memory, I think it's, I mean, the whole set of 6 costs about 10.5 grand. Just insane. And this one is sort of like the cheapest, I think, of the set. Obviously, given it's the youngest. But it's a lot of money from memory. It is a lot of money. Now, I'm going to try it with just half a teaspoon of water, because it is 43%, and I have already drunk half of what is probably about a 2.5 centilitre, 2 centilitre dram. There you go. So it won't take much. So the next one we're going to be looking at after this review is a 1967 Longmore, as I say, so another incredibly old vintage. Linkwood, I've only tried, in fact I've only tried the Flora and Fauna and the Gordon Macphail distillery labels apart from this one. If I'm honest with you, I've not tried much of it. So I've tried the 15-year-old, which you can get from Gordon Macphail, and they also do 21-year-old. Personally, I preferred the 15-year-old over the 21, which is a really nice little dram. Retails for around 40 to 45 quid. It's well worth it, considering, as I say, you can't really get official bottlings. So, with a bit of water, It has oversimplified the nose, but it does retain that kind of cinnamon note in the background. It is mainly sweet with sort of a musty sort of like sheet over it, if you know what I mean. I know that sounds daft, but it does smell mustier in general, and it's actually made it a little less complex. There is still that sort of leather note, which is a lot more pronounced. The tobacco I'm not getting so much now though. It is kind of similar to the previous nosing that I did without the water. Still kind of in those lines, so your toffee, as I say, your sweetness, you've got a little bit of cinnamon in there. And it's not as oriental now. It's not kind of got those sort of like Eastern flavours. So, onto the palate. Disappointingly, it has oversimplified the palate as well, to be honest. There is still like a really nice, going into the finish now, there is like a really nice sort of like chocolatey, milky coffee flavour. There is still a lot of sweetness in there, so there is your toffee, there is your caramel. There's almost like a biscuity flavour in there, like digestive biscuits by McVitie's, which kind of sort of plays onto a bit of nuttiness and some spice from the nose. So there is like I wouldn't say cinnamon, I'd sort of put it more towards the camp of nutmeg than cinnamon. The finish is a lot shorter. It is still quite warm, and you do, even at this point, I am still getting like it's making me want to do that with my jaw and my tongue, like move my tongue around. It is still sort of like quite sweet, and at the same time it's quite savoury. Getting a little bit bitter, but overall it's quite an interesting dram, quite an interesting experience. I think for me the nose is a bit better than the palate. Again, it is a privilege to taste this little bit of whisky history. Onto the score, I'm going to score the Linkwood an 88 out of 100. That's right, so it's 1972 Linkwood. I'm going to give 88 out of 100. Mainly because I think the palate lets it down a little bit, but for a 40-year-old dram, the sort of complexity and, in a way, the freshness of the flavours on the nose is really, really enjoyable. And I think this is certainly a dram that you can just sort of like take hours over. It really is. I feel like I'm not really doing it justice in a 20-minute review, so I have saved some to sort of like go back to and sort of like write up my own notes as well. So thank you very much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed the review, and as I say, stick around for the next 6 reviews, or the next 5 now, where we will be going back in time across Speyside to try some really interesting old whisky. Thanks very much, see you soon.